Calxiyn here, and if you guys enjoyed this video, remember that you guys should become patrons over on Patreon if you guys want to join our Discord server, get early access to our videos, or request a video topic for us to do. So this is a video we've wanted to do in a while that we can sum up by Hunter.
I don't know, this happened just recently, but there seems to be a lot of RWBY criticism, and there's not a lot of, you know, good RWBY criticism.
And so we're gonna talk about this. So something I've noticed is with the success of the RWBY criticism videos, like the good RWBY criticism videos, some people are trying their hand at doing it, and I don't want to say they're doing it wrong, but I don't think that they're necessarily focusing on the right aspect here. Like, people seem to be focusing on things that are human mistakes instead of RWBY's constant flaws, right? And what I mean by this is that there seems to be constant issues that the show has, but some people are blatantly ignoring those constant issues, and instead they're like, oh, this one mistake that happens, like, in every production, like, animation mistakes, like, Disney has animation mistakes, like, this voice line is wonky, everything that has acting has at least a couple wonky lines. You know what I mean? Like, there are movies and TV shows that are made by big studios. They still have animation mistakes. They still have lines which read a bit wonky, whether it's animated or it's not animated. You have books that get published for grammar and spelling mistakes all the time. But they're mistakes. You know what I mean? They're human errors, and nothing is ever going to be perfect until the robots take over and try to make their own art. Alright? Mm-hmm. And even then, if it's actually art, it shouldn't be perfect. I don't. Or at least it shouldn't be robot perfect.
You're gonna qualify that statement?
In a minute. So, the whole point of the criticism, though, in my mind, is to point out something in which there are constant flaws, right? Not where there are one-off mistakes, right? Characterization of certain RWBY characters has been a constant issue. We've done 2 videos now. One of them's about RWBY. Another one's coming out, if you guys haven't seen it already. It's about Cinder, right? Characterization problems are constant problems. Like, characters sometimes making choices that don't fit in with their character, or being stupid, or, you know, being shoehorned into situations where it doesn't make sense for them to go, right? And maybe with some more time to work on the script, sliding them into those situations would make more sense. Like, it would be easier for them to do so, so to speak. But I feel like a lot of people's idea of criticism recently, for some reason, is pointing out a handful of animation errors or making a compilation of cringy lines and being like, ah! Job's done!
It's the CinemaSins, model of criticism where, hey, let's not, like, add anything to this conversation or have any, like, overarching complaints. Let's just, like, nitpick to shit and, like, make the funnies, and so we make the monies.
And so, you can't stop people from making one-off mistakes. Alright, you can try, but there's always gonna be... Humans aren't perfect. There's always gonna be one mistake. Or a handful of mistakes. The only thing is, when a handful of mistakes becomes reoccurring, if RWBY always had bad voice acting, like, from now to Volume 5, that's a constant flaw. And it did. For Volume 1, it had a lot of constant with how bad the voice acting was sometimes, right? But they improved on it. You know what I mean? You can point out the constant flaws that somebody may be struggling with so it can then be improved. And I feel like pointing out animation continuity, or, oh man, did you hear how Barbara said this line? Like, no, like, that doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? When people talk about actual, like, I guess, like, characterization and world building and actual sort of, like, writing things that matter, you know what I mean? And that are constantly bad, I guess, that makes a lot of sense, at least to me. But when people nitpick over those little mistakes, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what are you doing? But anyway, I'm gonna start ranting, so Hunter, you can go.
Okay, champ.
I have everything written out. I don't want to get sidetracked in my own head by going on a rant.
I feel like my view of film criticism, or just, I don't know, criticism of art and in general is even more useless, but here we go!
Thank you for that.
I remember, so about a year ago, like, the studio head of, like, Universal Studios and Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg all came out against the Tomatometer. because they thought like that Rotten
I
Tomatoes.
think I remember that.
30% don't see this movie, it's shit, or like 99% everyone loved this, or how there's a deep divide between like audience and critiques, where like the audience reviews on like The Last Jedi were terrible, but the critics ones were really good on that website. And it all came out, and a lot of people wrote off those criticisms of like the big boys being pissed.
Big boys.
Goyles. I mean, I guess Spielberg. Anyways, their movies were getting poor reviews on their Rotten Tomatoes website, and that was hurting their bottom line. And like, believe me, I like to get mad at rich people for complaining that they could have been richer. That's like my thing. But I feel like you sort of miss their point. And that's an opinion I agree with to an extent, but I feel like it misses the part I enjoy the most about criticism. And it's the same thing with the whole, like, if you don't like it, then why don't you just do it better? Like, if you don't like RWBY, make your own show, but better, with rocket ships and hookers. Well, the thing is, I think that to make a show...
That's funny, because they can't use spaceships in RWBY.
That is...
They die when they get into them.
Okay, I hadn't considered that.
Anyway...
I dislike that opinion because I feel like it misses the part about criticism that I enjoy the most. Because I feel like the goals of criticism shouldn't be like, hey, this is a 20% movie. It is 20% good.
Like, well, when you say it like that...
Because I stand like, okay, so you could call... like, one of those. You could call that, like, this movie is 20% good, don't see it. You could call that criticism. You could also call, like, a 20-minute video essay by Lindsay Ellis about how the whole Hunchback of Notre Dame, how the film, rather, Hunchback of Notre Dame, changes throughout its many adaptations, from, like, a novel to a stage play to, like, a Disney movie to, like, a possible live-action movie. And how it changes its adaptations to fit like new artistic mediums and the changing nature of its audience. That can also be called criticism. The difference between the two is that one like enlightens you, makes you reconsider not only like a piece of media, but the nature of media and the nature of society, and the other one makes me want to walk into the ocean. Like, I feel like, because that's the type of criticism that's lacking in RWBY. The type of criticism that, I don't know, uses RWBY, or like really any other show, as a jumping off point to explain the world better. All I see is like, this show is 20% good, John is 20% good, RWBY is 20% good. Just like nitpicking and bitching, and not a lot more interesting
And we'll
material.
talk about that, because I feel like the point of the criticism videos that are the good ones, right? It's challenging you to think about it. Like, why is this flawed? How can you fix it? And I think that Unicorn of War honestly does this best with his videos, right? Because he makes, not just for RWBY, but he makes all these, like, writing videos. Like, how to write, like, a romantic subplot. I don't know if he has that one, but it's like, you know, because he's releasing his book soon. So he's talking about, you know,
there's
book
a lot
covers.
Of those.
And
like,
about world
Lindsay
building.
Ellis is very good.
You know what I mean?
Every frame of painting. These people do film critics.
And so, even though Unicorn of
Reviews
War
are
isn't
quite
just
good.
doing it, like, in a RWBY context, he's also making other videos that are just about writing in general and how to write things. You know, but when he does do it for RWBY, it's obviously great, because he has sort of, like, I guess an insight? I don't know if you want to call it that, but he understands, like, the writing side. I try to think that we understand the writing side, but I don't want to use ourselves as an example in case y'all are like, Cal, you don't know anything.
Which
right?
is probably true.
But that's the other thing, right? Like, bitching about how a handful of lines were badly voice acted, or like, oh, there's a continuity error here, and here, and here. Like, that doesn't deepen my understanding of anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't deepen my understanding of the show. It doesn't show me how I should write something, like, if I want to make it better.
There's
like,
no lessons learned.
There's nothing learned. It's just like, and I'm gonna talk about this, but it's just like, I guess I'll finish my thought first, and you guys we'll come back to this. But I want to see, like, how, like, this is a good character, this is why. This is a bad character, this is why. How can we make this better? This is good world building, this is bad world building, this is a bad, good plot device. You know, like, all of that sort of stuff. Especially, like, I love the stuff that Wisecrack does with their stuff. And I love people that make character analysis or episode
Wisecrack's
analysis.
okay.
Wisecrack is okay. That's not the best example, but I watch a lot of
think
essay
Lindsay Ellis is my
YouTubers.
favorite.
Yeah, I like her too. And there's a couple people that do like Black Mirror episode analysis. I really like those. And just a bunch of other things. There was somebody that also did one about why like Killmonger is a really good villain. I don't think that was Wisecrack. I think that was someone else.
Wisecrack, I don't know. I don't want to shit on Wisecrack. Wisecrack feels like they watch an episode, like they watch Rick and Morty and they crack a philosophy textbook and that's all the work they do.
Do they just pick a random philosopher and they're like, it's this one? No.
Let's talk about, I don't know, the Pickle Rick episode in Foucault. Let's fuck it up.
You know what I mean? But that was just a more popular example I could point out to people. But I think that it's like, you know, there's intelligent pieces of analysis out there that have a greater value than just criticizing the show, too. Like, it's showing us something about writing in general. You know what I mean? And I think that that's super interesting, or, like, what makes a good character and all of that, right? But I don't think that, like, showing a bunch of, like, badly delivered lines or anything, like, that, again, that doesn't give me a deeper understanding of anything. All that shows me is that they made a mistake because they're human, right? And someone is relentlessly pointing out and crucifying it, you know, that. And I think I'm gonna drag people a little bit, but I think it's because, honestly, some people aren't intelligent enough to think of a proper argument for why literally anything else in the show is bad, and there's a lot to pick from, you know what I mean? And so,
or they don't
when people can't
do the
explore exactly, and that's lazy, alright? That's lazy, and then there's unintelligent. Like, it's just both, right?
Unlike any of the videos we've done.
Well, you know. But when people can't explore the depth of an issue, and all they do is point out shallow, surface-level mistakes, instead of exploring, like, deeply into why something is flawed, I feel like all they're doing is going like, haha, look at what they did! I feel so smart because I noticed there's an animation error. You know what I mean? Like, something like that, right? And I'm not gonna tell somebody what they should do with their time. Alright, Hunter and I have made some questionable videos, right? But those are fun. This is, like, people boosting their ego so, like, they can stroke it and think that they caught them. Like, I caught Kruby. I found this line that's not, like,
you
bad
may be
or whatever.
Straw-manning a bit
right?
there, Cal.
Maybe.
I'm sorry.
But
although, to be fair,
it's evidenced by...
I've seen some shit.
It's evidenced by people ranting and foaming at the mouth, though. Like, if somebody was like, oh, this is just a little bit of fun, I thought it would be funny to collect all the cringy lines. That's one thing. But when people, like, rant to such an extent that, like, they sound like a raging lunatic. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. Like, because if you're having fun, good for you. Like, if that's something that you enjoy doing, like, that's great. You know, we're all here to have fun. But at the same time, a having fun person would just be like, oh, I did it for, you know, the laughs. Like, this is funny. Like, we're all chill here.
I did it for the memes.
But when somebody's ranting and be like, no, there should never be any wonky lines in RWBY. They are better than this. You know what I mean? You may say that I'm strawmanning, but this is real, alright? These are real examples. And I don't want to, like, you know, drag anyone. But, like, I'm just saying that that's what it seems like to me. Alright? Okay. Like, when I see stuff like this, is that they think that they're so clever by actually not showing us anything important. And we're not learning anything, we're not exploring anything. All you're telling people is, it's not right to make any mistakes ever, because we will destroy you online if you do anything wrong. God forbid. You know what I mean? And that's what I really think about, is Kruby has gotten into some bad habits, right? And those are flaws. And so it puzzles me when people compile every wonky line or every animation error, like I mentioned, and they present it as RWBY's biggest problem. Like, here's everything that makes RWBY bad. A collection of meaningless errors over the course of the season, or 5 seasons, sometimes, because there's not enough in one season. Like, not the things that they struggle for on a regular basis. And people make videos about what, I guess, they struggle with on a regular basis, if you want to call it that. Like, the character analysis. Like, I know Vex Viewer has done a couple character analysis. Unicorn of War has done a couple, like, is Salem a bad villain? RWBY, what's wrong with you? You know, like, stuff like that, right? Like, no, why are so many people just, like, looking at things that are just weird mistakes when the show has so many flaws you can choose from. And I think that's kind of what you said, Hunter. Maybe they're not, maybe I was wrong to say that they're not smart enough to do it, but maybe they're too lazy and they just want, like, the pat on the back, like, oh, you're a RWBY critic too.
I don't even really think that it's about
know.
laziness. I feel like it's fun to shit on things in very shallow ways.
That's the other thing I was gonna say.
It's not very constructive.
Is like, that people love to be mad. And that's what I meant earlier,
or
is that...
to be shitty.
That's what I was saying. Like, there's some people that are like, oh, I did this for the laws. Like, I did this for the laughs, right? But then there are some people who love to be angry. Like, oh, like, all of these lines that, like, Cinder said, right here, here, and here, like, these are bad. You know what I mean? They want to be mad about it, right? So I think it's a couple things. I think it's people trying to be, like, pseudo-intellectuals, and they don't know how to formulate a proper argument. And, like, I feel like that's something that Al would say if he was doing this video with us. There are people that are too lazy to put in the work, but still want a pat on the back from someone. So they find the easiest thing that looks like criticism, which is, to be honest, probably more of the voice lines and the animation errors, because, like, I don't even notice those half the time. But if they're, like, really determined, I guess. But those are, like, surface level compared to everything else, right? So it's that and the fact, I don't know, people just want to be mad.
I think it's just easier to not even be mad, to be like it's harder. I
feel like I have gotten out so much steam from this video because
easier,
people have been driving
you are
me
drinking
crazy.
Water now. I think it's easier to be like a CinemaSins than it is to be a Lindsay Ellis. It's easy to, like, nitpick and be shitty and sarcastic than it is to, like, do deep, comprehensive Ken Burnsian dives into topics.
CinemaSins is foaming at the mouth like, oh, see all these mistakes in Black Panther. Like, no, he's doing it because it's funny, I guess.
Yeah, because
but some people take that as gospel. That's the problem. Some people take CinemaSins not as, I don't want to say satire, but not as, like, you know,
as
it's
a
just
joke,
funny.
as
it's
like
a joke.
shallow joke, but they take it as this is how criticism should be, and it's
and it's not. And why do we do this? Why do we have to do that? That's just all I'm asking. And so if you guys want to see some really good RWBY criticism videos, I'm not going to talk about art.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
But I think that...
Hey, you want to see better videos than anyone who's ever done a RWBY video will ever do? Watch Lindsay Ellis. I'm a fangirl.
I think that Vex Viewer does them really well. I think that Unicorn of War and everything he does is great. You guys can watch our videos too if you want. But those are the two that I would recommend for you.
Stop faking humbleness.
To be honest. Like I mentioned earlier. Because they do, like, actual character analysis that matters. At least in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, they aren't pointing out superficial shit. And the thing about Unicorn of War is he has a book coming out too. He's a writer. Which I think Vex has said he's not. And, like, that doesn't make his opinion any less valid. But for me, I've always wanted to publish a book, right? So to see that Unicorn of War is doing it, and we're in sort of the same community, and he's giving out writing tips, I'm like, y'all better go watch that shit. Like, this is my boy. Please listen to him. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how I am. But anyway, this was a fun video. I feel better now, because I've been seeing this all week.
You chugged a bottle of water. Were you dehydrated?
Yeah.
Was this fueling your rage?
But yeah, I've been seeing this in a couple places, and I'm like, y'all are driving me crazy. And this was mostly, I have to admit, this was mostly because of Al. Al was just like, this is unbearable to watch, because they think that they're so smart.
Well, to be fair, Al also has a superiority complex.
Yeah,
But to be fair, he's British. They're just like that.
The problem with Al is that you want to catch him in a mistake, but the problem is, usually he's, like, if he makes a mistake, like, you'll never find out. You know what I mean? So it gives an illusion that he's always right, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like how Pyrrha just slightly moves, like, her enemies so it looks like she's invincible. That's just kind of how Al is, so I'd love to be like, Al, you're not always right all the time.
Why are you comparing him to the girl who got a fucking arrow in her sternum?
I don't know.
Jesus.
Maybe I want things to happen. I'm joking. Anyway.
I don't think you are.
We will talk to you guys later. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Bye, guys.